Have you ever seen a small child in his father's arms? One little hand clutches the lapel of his father's jacket, while his head presses against that strong, protective chest. Tensions may be all around, but the child is not threatened because he feels safe. This safety is no longer present in our world today. The greatest want of our world is the want of men, good men, men who will not be bought or sold, men who in their inmost souls are true and honest, men who do not fear to call sin by its right name. The Almighty God have set the foundations. God first, Christ second, man third, and woman fourth. Therefore build your house like the wise men on the almighty foundations where you built for eternity.
My name is Leera Coleman. I am a registered dietitian at La Lomalos Adventist Hospital, and I also work as the hospital's chaplain. I believe that the Lord and I have a very unique relationship. I see Him as my father. I am His daughter, and I speak to Him every day. And sometimes I believe that the Lord also speaks to me, and that is a very beautiful thing that I have. I have always believed in miracles. What made it more real for me was when I was sitting in church one day. I can't remember exactly how old I was, but they were having testimonies sharing on Sabbath, and this one lady was sharing her testimonies. And I remember saying, every Sabbath, this lady stands up and shares what God has been doing for her. And I said, I want to have testimonies too. From that point, I have seen many miracles in my own life. But the one that I would like to share with you today is in truth that God provides, and that means that He is Jehovah Jireh. God always provides. And quite frankly, I remember going to school at the Northern Caribbean University in Jamaica, that is in Mandeville, Manchester. In that part of Jamaica, the weather is so cool and it is always rainy. They would say or call that place cool Mandeville. Well, at the university, I remember starting and I only had enough finance for the first semester. That was in 2017, fall semester. And by the grace of God, I traveled from Belize through bus to Cancun, Mexico, and then from Cancun, Mexico to Jamaica. And I remember being there at the university at the end of 2017, and I needed monies to pay for my second semester, which would have been in January. And I didn't know where the funds were going to come from because I only went with sufficient for the first semester. But by the grace of God, being a student, an international student at the university, people would think that you would go having it all figured out, because the truth is it would be very foolish for you to leave your home and go to school in another country and you don't have enough money. So what I did was I went by faith, and I said to the Lord before I left, I said, God, if you want me to go to this university, then you will cover all of my school fees and my expenses. And not only that, but you will let it be that this university will have money to return to me when I am finished. And that was a bold prayer. And I also promised, and I didn't promise, but I asked the Lord if He could let me go through debt-free throughout my entire tenure at the university. Well, 2017, the end of that year was the start of it. That was when I hit rock bottom. I didn't have money to pay rent. I didn't know how I would register. I didn't know how that was going to happen. But God, in His wisdom and grace, would have allowed me for that first semester to do extremely well in my academics. So much so that when the new semester started in January, the administrative clerk for the nutrition and dietetics department, she gave me a call and she said, Leera, you have been awarded the Byron Robinson Scholarship. And when I went to collect that scholarship, it was $1,000 US. And that was sufficient to register me to start my second semester. Now, that was the start of seeing miracles and God answering my prayer there at Northern Caribbean University. Now, going through 2018, I remember coming back home this summer, and I had to work so that I say, God gives us energy and we have to work. So I went back to the call center that I used to work at before going to school. They gave me a summer job. And from working there, I did some sales by the grace of God. And I remember I needed some extra monies. And by the grace of God, praying, I remember I woke up one morning in my aunt's home, and I said, God, today I need $1,000 because I needed to go. No, I said, I woke up that morning and I said, God, today I need $2,000 because the next week I was supposed to be returning to Jamaica. This was a Friday. I said, God, I don't know how we will do it, but today I am asking you to give me $2,000 so that I can have enough money to go back. This is 2,000 Belize dollars. And I woke up that morning and the Lord impressed me with that verse that says, ask and it shall be given to you. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door shall be open. And I asked. I messaged the person that the Lord impressed me on, and I sent them the message. And by the grace of God, all the person said, come and pick up the $1,000. That was Belize dollars. That was 1,000 answered from the $2,000. Well, that day when I was going to go and pick it up, I decided to stop off at my grandmother and just to see her, to say hi before I should be going back, because that would be the last time I would get to see her. So I stopped off at my grandmother. She was asking me how everything is going and how school is going. And then she said to me, I want to give you a gift for school. And guess what my grandmother gave me? She gave me that other $1,000. So when the prayer that I made to the Lord in the morning, He faithfully answered. He gave me $2,000 in that same day. And by the grace of God, I was able to go back to school for that new semester. And then going into 2019, I had to figure out again how this would work out. And at that time, the Lord would have put His angels. His angels are everywhere. Human angels, messengers for God, people in flesh who are still listening to the voice of God. So there was this lady who was in the office of finance, and I explained to her that I couldn't pay yet to cover so I can register for 2019. And she said, Leera, I know you're going to do it. So she went through and she registered me. And by the grace of God, I got assistance from one of my friend's mothers. She was all the way, I believe, in one of the other Caribbean islands, and at her church, she fundraised at her church just so she could send money back so that I could register. God provides. But one of the biggest scholarships that I remember was when it came to the end of 2019. I wanted to cover my school fees so that I could have been registered to take my exams for the end of that semester. And I remember saying, Lord, I don't know what I'm going to do, but we've always pushed through. That's just me and the Lord. And I said, Lord, I'm going to write a letter to the president of the university. And by the grace of God, I wrote the letter to the university president, that is Dr. Lincoln Edwards. I believe he is still the president now. And I was waiting for a response. I didn't hear back anything. You know, time was coming down for exams and I still didn't hear back anything. I believe I sent the letter from November and I didn't get a response. But the lady who was an angel, she made sure that I was able to take my exams. And at the end, not the early December, I got a message from an email from the president's office with the letter that I have been awarded a rescue scholarship from the president's office, which is a beautiful program that they have at the university. So I have been rescued by Christ through the office of the president, and I was able to, when I went through fully, with those monies, I was able to clear my balance, and also I was able to register for the upcoming semester, which would have been 2020. All by the grace of God. God provides. He provides. I remember going into the office of student aid with one of my friends, and we were behind on our rent. We didn't have any groceries. Things were just not working out, but we just went up there and we said, God, say ask. And so we asked, and the lady cleared our rent and she gave us money so that we could have bought our groceries. The experiences have been amazing, so much so that I have not been afraid to ask God for anything. And as I close off this testimony today, I want to tell you that God sponsored my entire university tenure in another country. And He did that through amazing means, including that of strangers. I remember finishing my last tenure to do my clinicals in, that would be in Santa Cruz. And I remember going there, not Santa Cruz, St. Elizabeth, some part of Jamaica, at that hospital there. And I remember I had to stay at a lady's house who have became such a spiritual mother to me. And the first day, by the grace of God, she was asking me some questions and I shared with her some of my story. And after I shared with her, she knew that I needed to be registered in order for me to begin my clinicals, or I would have had to drop that program, because you have to pay the supervisors at the hospitals before you begin. And the day I came back home, the lady, well, not home, but home at her home, the lady said to me that I believe the Lord is telling me that I should be the one that helps you. And so here I'm going to give this to put towards your registration so that you can take your classes, your clinicals. And so by the grace of God, I want to say to somebody out there, you might be afraid to step out in faith, but today God is saying to you to go forward, because He is going to clear the water when your foot touches it. At the brink, when your foot touches that water, then your Jordan is going to be parted and you will get to go into the land of Canaan. And when you get to the land of Canaan, know that there is more miracles waiting for you, but you must go at the Lord's command.